Hi, today I want to update you on the chest freezer. We did purchase one. We bought the Avante model CF24Q0W. It is a 2.5 cubic foot, and I will get into why we purchased this one. This is extremely small. Alright, the unit dimensions are only 32.75 high by 16.5 wide and 24 inches deep. So it's 2 feet deep, 16.5 inches wide, and just over, I'd say, 2.5 feet high. Let's go here, show that. As you can tell, it is a very small freezer. It's a very small chest freezer. Now, there's a reason we purchased something this small. It is only me and my girlfriend, so it's not like we're going to have or need a lot of storage space. Here's the energy label for this deep freeze. It uses 137 kilowatt hours per year. Alright. Now, when you're figuring out how many things of solar you need or something like that for your appliance, you take your kilowatt hours. It's 137. Alright, here is where I ordered it. I'll get back to the kilowatt hours in a minute. We paid $238, and you see I have it blanked out. We did order it September 4th, which was yesterday. Today's the 5th. We did purchase the extended warranty with it. Now, with the extended warranty, it was $258.99. If I would have bought it without the extended warranty, it was $238. Now, here's where we're going to talk about kilowatt hours. If you're going to get a deep freeze and you need to run this, there's two important things you need to know. One, your kilowatt hours, how many hours it's going to take to run, and they usually tell you per year. And two, you have to understand that a deep freeze, much like a refrigerator with a compressor in it, when it's cooling down for the first time, it is going to draw a massive load. So if you're going to get a deep freeze, think about one of two things. One, if you're going to run this off solar, you need to understand you do not, absolutely do not hook this straight up to your solar system. It has to be cooled down. You do not want that extremely large surge, especially if you have a small system like mine. I only have two 122 amp hour Walmart Marine batteries and 400 watts of solar on a 30 amp charger controller. So what I would do myself is I would either cool this down with our generator, which would be no issue for our generator, or I would hook a power inverter up to a car and then run the car until this is cooled down. Now, I understand that's going to take quite a bit of gas running that car for 2 hours until this freezes over. But you do not want to hook this straight up to your solar system until that thing is cooled down. Once it's cold, just keeping it cold is not an issue. But cooling it down, that's going to be an issue for you. So, let's get to the kilowatt hours here. It takes 137 kilowatt hours per year. Now, to find out how many watts that is going to take per year, you times that by 1,000. So that's 137 times 1,000. That's 137,000 watts per year. Alright, then you take 137,000, divide that by 365 days. Now, I'm not counting the leap year with the extra day. I don't give a damn about that extra day. So we're going to use 365 because that's your average year. That's 137,000 watts divided by 365. That will give you 375.3426 blah 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 watts per day. Alright, so I just rounded that up to 375.5 watts per day, because it's just under that. So at 375 watts a day, Most small solar systems you buy are either 100 watt, you can buy less, of course, but they usually come in sets of 100 watt, 200 watt, 300 watt, 400 watt, 500 watt, 600 watt, such and such. I have 400 watts of solar, so it's no big deal if I even wanted to run this full time. Once it's cooled down, my solar system, even at 20% loss through my inverter and through cables, but I have installed larger cables, which will help with the loss. So I won't have as much loss as someone using, say, the cables that came with their inverter, because they're usually too small. But basically, it's going to take 375.5 watts per day to run this deep freeze. Now, this is running 24 hours a day. Alright, you don't need this to run 24 hours a day. Once it's frozen and it's cold, there's one thing: ice is your best friend. Alright? If you take some 1 gallon bags or some quart bags that you just buy at the grocery store to put food in, fill it up about anywhere from half to 3/4 of water, and you freeze that, that will help keep your deep freeze cold. So you won't have to run it as much. So if you're interested in a deep freeze, figure out how many kilowatt hours per year, and that's what they tell you generally is per year. So this deep freeze takes 137 kilowatt hours per year. You times that by 1,000, you'll get how many watts a year that takes. You divide those watts by 365, and that will give you the number you have to pull off your solar per day to run this appliance 24 hours a day. Once again, mine will be on a timer. I will probably only actually need to run this twice a day, once during the day, once at night, because we will be putting ice packs in it. We will have ice in there as much as possible to keep it cold. And I apologize, I'm using my small camcorder. I do have a light over here plugged in to try to get this to pick up better, but let me go through this again. As you can tell, it's not that big. This is the most important thing you can find. We did actually find chest freezers that use less power than this. Unfortunately, those chest freezers were around the same price, if not just a little bit more. But those chest freezers were 3.5 cubic foot, which for 2 people, I mean, we don't need that much space and that much room. We need something small. And the reason we're getting something this small is because if something happens and we have to move and stay in my van, then I've already figured out how to put 2 beds in there. One will be on the floor going crossways. One will be raised up. That will be my girlfriend's bed. I'll be on the floor. I'm a guy. I get the floor. But her bed would be raised up, and up underneath her bed will be the refrigerator and the chest freezer and, storage space. My bed will be on the floor directly under, right under hers at the end of her bed, the head of her bed, shall we say. And right behind the driver and passenger seat will be my bed. So if I raise her bed up, both of these can fit under her bed, and all I have to do is make it to where her bed raises up where the deep freeze opens, the door for the deep freeze. Or just raise her whole bed up, and put it up against the wall, lift it up, then we can get in the chest freezer. So size was very important to us. That's why we got the small one. Now, once again, like I said, I did find some that use less power than this, but we are not looking just at the power. We are looking at size. This is a really small chest freezer. I have found absolutely nothing on this Avante 2.4, 2.5 cubic foot chest freezer on YouTube. So I will end up making a video on it when I get it. So you can see it. It says 2.5 cubic foot, but a lot of places say 2.4. And this is from Avanti, straight from them, so it's probably 2.5. And once again, it's right here. Even the listing says 2.5. It will probably be a couple weeks before it gets here with the way things are going. But we needed something really small just to keep frozen foods because it is only the two of us. And my solar can keep up with this even if we had to run it 24 hours a day, which we don't, because we will be putting ice in there to help keep it cold. Anytime you have a chest freezer, there's a couple things you need to do. One, fill it up as full as possible. You want no air in there if you can help it. Two, put ice in there. Put water in there to freeze. Like I said, get gallon Ziploc bags or quart Ziploc bags from the store. Get sandwich bags. Put water in them. Whatever you have to do. Put a container in there with water in it. Let it freeze. Whatever you have to do. Make you some ice packs. Throw you some ice packs in your freezer. And that will help keep that from having to kick on as much. And it'll help keep it cold longer. That's really important when you're running off solar. And once again, my 400 watts would run this. Because I did replace all the cables. I have heavier, thicker cables. So there's not hardly any power loss through my cables. Unlike the cables that came with the inverters, those cables are too small. The larger the cables, the less power loss you have. The shorter the cables, the less power loss you have. So if you're wanting to run something, find what it is. Now remember, microwaves, anything with a compressor, while it's kicking on, will have a massive jump in power. Sometimes 2 to 3 times higher. So you have to take into account that kind of situation. Once this is cooled down, this is what it will pull. 375.5 watts per day. I've already gone over the volts and everything else, and I believe in another video talking about a deep freeze or my refrigerator or something. But my 400 watts, given the amount of sun we get, like during the summer, fall, spring, there are a couple days where I would actually have to hook this up to a vehicle or the 12 volt on my generator because of no sun. But on a sunny day, 375 watts per day, if I ran this 24 hours a day, is what it would take. Now once again, I will not run this all the time. I will only run this a couple times a day just to keep everything frozen. Most chest freezers are insulated well enough that it can keep your food frozen for 24 hours. So basically, if I ran this twice a day, my food and our food should be fine, especially if I have ice packs in it. So once again, to find what you are actually needing on your watts. You already know it's 120 volt if you're using 120. You already know it's 12 volt if you're using 12, or 24 if you're using 24 volt. But your watts, to find how many watts it takes from kilowatts, you times it by 1,000. If it uses 13 kilowatts, that would be 13,000 watts. You times it by 1,000. Now, these energy guides usually go by the year. And make sure it says per year. Right there. Estimated yearly electrical use is 137 kilowatts. Alright? So that's the number you use per year if it says yearly. And then you divide that by 365. And that gives you your watts per day that you're pulling. And always round it up. I mean, I could round this up to 376 instead of 375.5. Anyway, I wanted to show you the chest freezer that we're getting. It will be here hopefully in the next week or so, and hopefully these idiots don't leave it out front like they do everything else, because this is $200 something that we don't want to lose, and we really need this. So anyway, once it gets here, I will show you, but I wanted to talk about it and show you what we did order and why we ordered this specific one. Once again, I did find some that were bigger than this that use less power, but if you're worried about having to live in a vehicle like a van or just something like that, you don't need something really big. You need something that you can handle in certain situations. Like, this could go in my van without an issue, right next to our refrigerator, our little mini fridge. So that's what we're looking at, is size. But once again, if you have 400 watts of solar and a good set of cables, that's a must, and a good DC to AC power inverter, 400 watts should run this for 24 hours without an issue, especially if you have ice in it and it's already cold before you hook it up to your inverter. That's a must. It needs to be cold. If it's not, the couple ways you can cool it down: you can plug it into a wall outlet, but if you have no power, hook your inverter up to your vehicle, cool it down that way, or run a generator for a couple hours and cool it down that way. Once again, don't just plug this into your solar and think it's just going to cool down, because cooling this down for the first time is going to draw a massive amount of power. So it would take a lot of solar and a lot of batteries. And if you're on a small system like me, you need to squeeze every ounce of power out that you can without destroying your system. But anyway, I wanted to talk about it. I will show it once it gets here. Once again, here's the formula to find out. Take your kilowatt hours, times it by 1,000, then divide that. If it says yearly, if it says monthly or weekly, that's a totally different thing. You have to divide that by like 30 days, or if it says weekly, which they never say weekly, but if you find something that says weekly, take your kilowatt hours, times it by 1,000, and then divide it by 7 for a week. But usually they say yearly. And this is how to do it. Alright, I'm fixing to go. This is getting really long. Once again, I will show you the deep freeze. And here's the energy guide. Before you buy any deep freeze or refrigerator or anything, always look for the energy guide, especially if you're going off grid, or try to find the thing that uses the least amount of kilowatt hours. Right here is the most important thing you can see on any energy guide, is the kilowatt hours per year. The least amount right here is what you want. So if this said 120 or 117 or 115, it would be a lot less than the $17 a year. Alright, and once again, I did buy the extended warranty. I apologize, the video is super long. But that's it. Everyone stay safe out there, and once we get the deep freeze in, I will show it and let you know how it's working and show you how I pack it up. Alright, bye.